Hi all, very good evening. So I'm Dinesh Kumar and I have nearly 10 years of experience in JavaScript technologies like AngularJS, Ember.js, Knockout and Node.js. Normally, my day-to-day work is just to build JavaScript components using Angular or Node modules. This is what my day-to-day work. And today, normally we are going to discuss about Node.js uh, server-side environment. So what are we going to discuss on this today's webinar? One is communication in Node.js. So before we go into the webinar, just I want to say something. Normally this webinar is all about 60 minutes, maximum we can extend up to 70 minutes, not more than that. So I may not able to answer for all of your questions. So whatever questions you are getting, just post your questions on the question window. So once I complete a particular topic or a module, I should be able to answer for your questions. So today if I'm not able to answer for your questions, mostly you can send out the questions to our support team, so we'll be able to get back to you for your questions. Thank you. So let's go into the session. So what will you learn today? Today mostly we'll be discussing about introduction of Node.js, then use cases of Node.js. Mostly we'll be discussing about LinkedIn use case or Uppercap. So they are using Node.js in their application. So we'll be discussing about that. Next, we'll be discussing about network communication in Node.js. So normally if we want to transfer anything from one server to another server, we'll be using TCP or UDP. These are all the Node modules. Mostly we'll be discussing about that. Next, the important one, two-way communication in Node.js. So two-way communication is nothing but normally in our traditional application, we will be sending a request to the server side, then server can give a response to that particular request. But now I don't want to send any request to the server. Just server needs to push some data to the client side. How can we do that? So to achieve these kind of functionalities, we will be using this socket IO. Using the socket IO, normally we can achieve this two-way communication in Node.js. We'll be discussing about that socket IO also in our webinar. Before we go into Node.js, first we have to understand what is this traditional multi-threading model. So if I'm building an application with Java or any other traditional programming language, we'll be doing with the multi-threading to handle multiple requests or to handle everything in the parallel. So we'll be creating one thread pool which will be having n number of threads. So consider I have like 3 threads in my thread pool and I have very large amount of user base. So like 5 or 10, more than that thread pool size, there are users are hitting my server. As I told, we have like only 3 threads on my thread pool and 5 or 6 users are hitting my server at a time. So mostly each and every request will assign to a one thread and we can do all the processing. Next remaining request will be pending. So it will be in the waiting stage. Then once the 3 threads is completes its work, then again we will be passing the request to these threads. This is how normal multi-threading model will work. Here we have some of the problems. Main problem to write this multi-threading model is very difficult. Actually for me it's very difficult. Next one, if you see, each and every request we have to create a thread to process that particular request. Again you move the thread to the thread pool and other these kind of operation we have to do. Next, one of the biggest problem in multi-threading is lock. So I have some kind of shared resource, and if multiple threads try to access the shared resource, the thread lock will happen. So it will affect other results also. That is the main problem we will be facing in the multi-threading. Okay. So how can we solve these things with this Node.js? So Node.js is mainly a single threaded application. Okay, so everyone will get shocked. Okay, if it is a single threaded application, then how can I handle multiple requests? Then it will be slow than other frameworks or programming language, right? No, it is not. So mainly Node.js is built on a JavaScript. JavaScript by nature it is asynchronous. So there won't be any other non-blocking mechanism, and internally it will be having its own thread pool and it can handle everything. So here you can see this is a basic architecture of Node.js, but later we can see the higher picture. First one, so what will happen is whenever you send a multiple requests from your client side, so each and every request will be loaded in your event queue. So you'll be having an event queue in the node side, so all the requests will be loaded. Then from the event queue, each and every events or request will pass to the event loop, and the event loop internally it has its own thread pool. So each and every request will assign to a particular thread pool. Thread pool will do that work. Then each and every request will be having its own callback functionality also. So once the particular request is over, just it calls its own callback method, and we can able to get the response. Next one is we are saying it is non-blocking mechanism. So what does it mean by non-blocking mechanism? So consider I have like 5 requests. So normally JavaScript itself is asynchronous and non-blocking. Consider I have a 5 request. My first request is to read from particular file. So say that file size is very like a few kbs, like 1 or 2 kb. So it will take like microseconds or milliseconds, maximum 1 or 2 milliseconds to read it. Next, I have one more request which again reads into from a file that is a really large amount of file like a MB's file. So it will take few seconds to read it. And the third request I have, so that needs to do some kind of basic operation in the server level, etc. And it needs to give the response. In the traditional application, if I do the same work, what will happen is first it will execute the first request or first method or whatever I have, which will take like 2 milliseconds. Then it will come out of this. Next method will take like a 3 seconds, say. So it will execute that method. After 3 seconds, it will come. And the last request will take like a 2 or 3 milliseconds again. So totally if you see, it will take like this 3 seconds for this second request and remaining some milliseconds for the first request. Totally it will take something like a 4 seconds. Because it's a synchronous process, it will run each and every steps. But when we are, so here it's what we are talking about a blocking mechanism. Because the second request is taking 2 seconds, till the time it is blocking the data, it is not executing the third one. But when we are building with the JavaScript or Node.js, what will happen is the first request and second, third, everything will run parallelly. You might have seen in the normal JavaScript, I can read it from the file, and in the next line itself, I can read it from some other file also. Everything will run parallelly and it reads the data. So totally, the maximum time whatever it takes, the 3 seconds, that's what your response time. So this is what we are calling it as a non-blocking mechanism in JavaScript. Next one, what is Node.js? So nowadays, people whoever sees this Node.js, they are thinking, okay, it is again like a one more JavaScript library or a framework, like how we have a jQuery and AngularJS. They are comparing Node.js with AngularJS or other MVC frameworks. You can't compare this Node.js with any other client-side frameworks. Node.js is a server-side runtime environment where you can build your JavaScript node application. And this AngularJS, Ember.js or jQuery, whatever you have, that will be running on your client side. That is on your browser. But you need some program which needs to access these database and other stuff. So we'll be having our server. On the server, the node will be running. Whatever the JavaScript you are going to write, that will compile on this node environment. It will give the result. So normally before only this Java, PHP only will be running on the server. So how can we run this Node.js? Normally how the browser, Chrome browser is rendering all this JavaScript. So it is having its own Google's V8 engine. So which interprets your JavaScript code and it converts into the machine level language, it is executing it. In the same way, Node.js also using the same Google's V8 engine. So what it will do is, anyway we will be writing all the JavaScript code on the server level, which will be interpreted on Google's V8 engine, which will be executed all the code and will be able to get the response. So Node.js is nothing but it is a server-side runtime environment where you can write your JavaScript program on the server level, and mainly it is a single threaded. Next one is, you may get a doubt, okay, so it is something like a JavaScript program, will it be supported in other OS? Yes, it is supported in our Windows, Linux, or FreeBSD, IBM, everything. We have tried it in all the OS. This Node.js is supported in almost all the browsers. Next one is, so now we'll see the Node.js detailed architecture. So first, I have a n number of clients. So client is nothing but will be making a request from your browser. Everything is coming to your server side. Consider these are all your clients. So now if you're getting n number of requests, what will happen is, first all the requests will be pushed to the event queue. Then from the event queue, it will pick the request, it will be passed to the event loop. And from the event loop, the request will be sent, because each and everything here, whatever we are going to handle it, everything is a non-blocking mechanism. So one request can have multiple methods. So the methods will be a non-blocking mechanism, it will be executed parallelly. And the Node.js is internally having its own thread pool from the event loop. So what we are doing is we are passing the request and we are assigning a request to a particular thread pool, and which will be handled. So one thread can do this database operation and another one thread can do some kind of reading from the file system or other operations. So each and every request we are assigning to a thread, the thread is taking care of everything, but you need not to write any other code for it. Internally, Node handles it. This is the biggest advantage what I see in Node.js compared to any other programming language like Java or .NET. So what we are doing is, we'll pass a request. The request automatically will be pushed to the event queue, and event queue serve each and every request to the event loop. From the event loop, which assigns the request to the corresponding threads. And as I told before, so each and every request will be having its own callback method. So once it's the particular process is over from your thread, so what it will do is it will call its callback method. The callback method will be having its response object, so you can send your response back to the client. This is how normal Node.js flow works. So if you want to give a real-time example, what can we do is, consider I have one application which require to get the data from this particular DB and get the data from the file system, or read the data from the file system and put it into the DB like this. So what I will be doing is I will be making a call. So these calls goes to the server side. Once it reaches the server, it will be pushed to the event queue, node event. From the event queue, each and every request will be sent to the event loop. The event loop will be having its own callback method. So the reading from the database. So its callback method will be there in the event loop. So this process or this particular method will be sent to us into a particular thread. That is an internal thread pool. Node.js itself is having its own internal thread pool, so we need not to worry about it. So it will be assigned to the internal thread pool. So thread pool does its work, then it will call its own callback method. Okay, this particular job is done. So the callback method will be having its own response, so it knows from where it came. Okay, so it will call its own callback method and it gives the response to the client. Normally this is how the node flow works. Okay, so let's discuss about some of the use case of Node.js. First one, most of you guys know about the LinkedIn, so they are using a Node.js. Before, when they build this mobile application, what will happen is, to load a single page, they needs to make multiple calls. So each and every call, if you are making very large amount of call to the server, it may crash it if it is not, if it can't handle it. Okay, that's what happening before. Now later what they have done is they implemented the Node.js for their mobile application of their LinkedIn, so they will be making only very minimal call for their pages, single call for each and every page. So now what happens is, uh, after the implementing the Node.js, their resource usage or the machine is become ratios become like a 10 is to 1. Before they were using like a 10 resources, now it will be like a 1. This is the best use case of Node.js. Next one is eBay. Before the eBay, they were using the Java to build their application. Whenever they are doing this kind of big day sale and other stuff, there will be very large amount of users, and they have the trouble with this scalability and maintaining the resources also. Okay, instead now what they have done is they have changed it into the Node.js is really scalable. You can run multiple clusters and multiple instances, and you can scale the application also. In the same time, it is using only single thread, and the resource usage also is very less. So that's why eBay also is internally using Node.js on their side. Next, the best one is the Uber story. So now the Uber is using Node.js for the cab dispatch operation. First, let me tell you what is the trouble we had on this Uber. Then why did they implement this Node.js architecture? So first, I'll consider I have one particular cab, and whenever user books, so already they had the multi-threading option and everything. But whenever user tries to book a cab and other times, what will happen is the same cab might be dispatched for the multiple users. That can't be done. A single cab can be dispatched to only one user because of accessing this multiple multi-threading program. So it was happening. That was the biggest trouble. Instead, so what happens is the same car has been dispatched for the multiple users. So we need to avoid it. Okay. So to avoid it, so what they have done is they came up with this new architecture for Uber. So whatever the request you are making, so that will be from your client. So client is nothing but your mobile now, because they are having with the mobile app only. So you will be making a call to your node server. The node server will make a call to the dispatch. In the same time, it will make a call to your DB also. That is your MySQL. So once it calls the dispatch, it will be stored in the MongoDB. It's a full, the one layer is a mean stack kind of mean stack application. So it will be stored on the MongoDB. In the same time, you will be doing all the business logics, and you will be getting the response back. So what will happen is each and every cab will be dispatched to only for that particular request. So that's why, so what happened, they implemented a node server on the middle, and they separated their business logic and the real-time logic. So this dispatch, all the information will be stored in the MongoDB, and the business logic, everything, they will be having it in their SQL itself. Next one is job trends. Normally the Node.js, they released like 5-6 years back, but till 2010 or 2012 there was not much growth. Very few people were using Node.js in their application. The main thing is till the time JavaScript was not that much good, so they will be using the JavaScript only to do the basic client-side validations and other stuff. But now JavaScript is ruling the world. You can do anything in the JavaScript, right? So now it's running on the server side also. But later, almost because of these kind of advantages what we have it in the Node.js, so it is keep on booming in the market. The recently few years, mostly if you see, everyone is migrating their application to the mean stack application. So mean stack is nothing but M stands for MongoDB, E stands for Express. Express is a framework what we use it in the Node.js, and E stands for Angular, and N stands for Node. So that is the full stack application. They are nowadays they are migrating to this mean stack, and the recent few years it's booming in the market. So you can see the graph right here. In the last few years, like from 2013, 14, 15, it is reaching the high percentage of in the job posting. Even you can see it in the North Korea or anywhere. So mostly they are looking for this mean stack developers. Next one, so till this time we were seeing all the theoretical part of the Node.js and other things. So let's do some kind of basic programming in Node also. So before that, do you guys any other question on this Node architecture or the flow? If you have any question, please post your question on the question window. Let's spend like 2 or 3 minutes to answer those questions. From Varun, we have a question. Why and where Node.js is used in the website? Node.js, first you have to understand, Node.js is not at all client-side programming, so always it will be running on your server. So however we used JavaScript or .NET, this kind of server-side programming, in the same way it will be running on your server side, not on the client side. So from Vikrant we have a question, what is callback method? So callback method is nothing but, consider I wanted to read a file from particular file system. Okay, so you will say this is my process. Reading the file is my process. Here everything is a non-blocking mechanism, right? So what will happen is, if I want to read 5 files, each and every process will be having its own callback methods. So everything will be running parallelly. Once the particular process is over, the particular process is mapped to a callback. So it will, okay, I'm done, I read all the file, so what do I need to do? So it will call its own callback method. Okay, I'm done, so tell me what do I need to do. Inside the callback method we will be writing a program. Okay, you have the data, just let's process the data and give the response. Callback method is nothing but the process will let the user or let the system knows, okay, I'm done, I have the data, let's do whatever you wanted to do with this particular data. This is what we used to say it as a callback. But let's see the real-time example for the callback method also in the few minutes. So Praveen is asking, is that safe to handle the data in the node side? Just asking for the security purpose. Yes. However, we can implement all the security in the Java.NET. In the same way, we should be able to integrate the security. So normally in the last application, we have implemented the full security using all the sessions and all the data, whatever we are transmitting from the server side to client side. Everything has been encrypted by one module called bcrypt. So using the bcrypt module, we used to encrypt all the data. That data will be stored on the DB. In the same time, if I want to transfer any data from server to client, so that time also will encrypt and will send the data. Again, whenever we want to read it back, so we can decrypt with the same module. It is totally secure, like how we are building with other application. From Rajit, we have a question. Can Node.js be used to develop a web application, all server-side components? Yes, from Node.js you can do everything. If you want to read it from the database or a file system, or if you want to handle all the session tokens, everything is possible. So whatever we are doing with this traditional server-side programming, we can do everything with minimal effort. That is the main advantage. Okay, so I know there are more questions, so let's go to this example and we'll go through all the code. Then once we get a time, I will be able to answer for your remaining questions. Because we have very less time, that's why I'm skipping all the questions, guys. Okay, so let's see how communication works in Node.js. First, what does it mean by network communication? Normally, when we do this client to server communication, for example, I will be having a browser. The client is nothing but your browser. From the browser, I will make a call to the server, do that operation, and give me the response back. So your server is only one. So from some other machine or some other browser, I will open it through the HTTP. I will make a call, the request and response object. But instead, I have a two different servers. I want to talk between these two different servers. At that time, mostly we will be going for this network communication. So in the network communication, we have two different types. One is the TCP and another one is the UDP. So nothing but the TCP, it's a more secured, and before it establish any other connection, it will make a handshake like, okay, this connection has been established. Okay, this endpoint server is available. Then only it will make the connection. But if you are using UDP, that is really fast. Because what will happen is it won't do any other this handshake, or it won't verify whether the receiver is available or not. Just whenever you want to send the data, just it will push the data. And it won't give any other acknowledgement also. Okay, the data is received, or whatever acknowledgement you wanted to give. That is the UDP. But now in this particular webinar, mostly we will be discussing about the TCP communications. Okay. Here in the TCP, there are two things, two important properties we can discuss. One is allow off open. So allow off open false. So it is a default property. But whenever you are making it as a true, what will happen is when you start the communication between the two servers, first it will make a handshake. That's what we used to call. It will verify whether the endpoint is there or not. So I'm sending data from one server like 162 to 172, some IP address. Now it will make a handshake, so it will give the data saying, okay, I'm available. It will give acknowledgement. Then only it will start processing. Here, whenever you set this allow of open true, what will happen is, if you want to terminate the connection, these two server needs to agree mutually, then only you can terminate it. So simply the server 2 or the receiver trying to terminate the connection, that won't happen. So whenever you are making it as a allow of open true. The same, the pass on connector is nothing but once you connect to the server, you can make, okay, just wait. Let me tell you when you can send me the data or when you can do some other operation. So whenever you are making this pass on connect is true, once you connect to the server, it will be on the pass state. So you have to trigger a resume event to do that particular operation on your server. Okay, so that is the main two things in network communication. So okay, this theory part and everything is okay, fine. So let's do some kind of basic program, then only that will be interesting. So let's let me open my editor. This, where is my editor? I'm not able to see. Yeah, it's here. It's here. Okay, great. I got my editor. Okay, I made some changes. Let me close it. Fine. In TCP server communication, what we will be doing is we'll send one from one server to another server. We'll be sending some data or some other information. So before I go to the TCP communication, Ranjit asked, so what does it mean by callback function? So let me explain the callback function. Let me write a basic code for it. Okay. So consider I have this file test.txt. I want to read that file. The reading that file is one process for me. So if I want to read that file, we'll be using FS, that is nothing but file read or a file system module. So using the file system module, you should be able to read the file from a particular location. So if you want to read a file, so what you'll be doing is fs.read file of just give your file path. So I have the file in the test.txt. So you'll be giving that file path. So this is your process. Now you want to read the file. Okay. So once I read the file, what do I need to do? So you will be mentioning your callback method here itself. Function. Once I read the file, it will give all the callback functions will be having its own error method and the object. So whatever the data I have. So inside, what you want to do? Okay, once I read the file, then what you need to do? Here, this part alone, we are calling it as a callback function. You can see it right here. No dot slash test. So from this particular location, read the file. Once I read, it will call this callback method. So the callback method will be having error and object. If any error, it will go over here. You can handle the error. Right here, you can write all the operation, whatever you want to do. Once I read the file, just send it as a response. Response.json of object. So it will send it to a UI. Or if you want to do any other process, okay. So if it is a error, do something. So whatever operation you wanted to do, just you can write it on this particular module. So normally this is what we are calling it as a callback in Node.js or any JavaScript functionality. It's nothing but the Node.js. Okay, this is fine. Let's see about the network communication. So network communication, as we discussed, will be sharing us data from one server to another server. But now we have only one machine, that is one server. I have it right here. So what I am going to do is first I initiate one server that will be listening, and I will create a one more client that will be like another one server which gets the data, sends the data to that receiver server. That's what I wanted to do with network communication. So let's go to the server part, index.js. How can we write it? First, in the Node.js, if you want to access any other node modules or npm modules, you will be using this require method. So using the require method, pass the module, whatever you wanted to access, so that you should be able to get it. So now for the TCP communication, I want to use the module called net. So I'm passing the module, I'll be getting the whole functionality and features, whatever available in the net, it will be available right here. Next, I want to create a server which will be listening. Okay, I will be listening whenever give data, or whenever you want to send a message, just send it to me like that. So if a server is listening, I need to know, or the server needs to listen for a particular port number. Then only I can send a message, right? So first let's create a server. So to create a server, what we will be doing is net.create server, and which will be having the parameter of the socket. Socket is nothing but it is a duplex stream. So over there you can read or write information, whatever you want to do, just you can do it on the socket object. Now I created the server. Here, so just consider we don't have these information, nothing is available. Now just I have created the server, and once I created the server, I need to listen for a particular port number. So that is the, it is 8080. I will be listening to this port number. Okay, so I will be listening to this port. Whenever I have a client, in the same way, I will be having the client. So the client also will be using the net module, and I need to connect to a particular server to send some information or to do some kind of operation. So that's what we are doing. Net.connect. So wherever your server is running, if it is running in a separate port number, I can give that port, and if it's running in a different IP, you can pass that IP also. Something, whatever it is, you can pass that IP right here. But now it is running in my local itself, both server and the client will be running on both my local. So I don't want to give any IP. I'll give just only port number. So I know the port number where it's running. I mentioned right here, the server is running on 8080. So in my client, what I will be doing is I will mention my port saying connect to this particular server. Okay, now this is done. So before we go into it, so let me explain a few of the things. First one, we are connected to the server. I told we have the input object called socket. Socket is nothing but the duplex stream. Duplex stream means uh, on the same stream you can write as well as you can read the data. Again, it is a one, the stream internally will be having its own events. That is a one more module available in the Node.js. Okay, so let me run this program, then I can explain you one by step by step. So how can we run the program? Let me open it in the terminal. Clear. So I have this program in this TCP, and if I want to run node index, so the server is the index file index.js. Now I started, and it is listening to port number 8080. Now let me open another one more tab. So I have my client right here. So I want to connect to that port 8080, and I need to send some information. I have one file called test.txt. You can see it right here. That is having one data called hello world. Then what I want to do is read the data from the test.txt and send that information to the server. So what we are doing, the read stream will be having the whole data. It's a streamable data. For example, if you have a large amount of data, like 10 MBs of data, each and everything will be streamed of data. In a single stretch, it won't read. It will stream the data like chunk by chunk. First, it will give like a few KBs, next few KBs, like that. It will be giving the data. So once you get the streamable data, you can pipe it to the client. So client is your stream here. This is your duplex stream now. So what we will be doing? So we are sending the data to the client. The client is connected to 8080, right? So what will happen whenever I send the data to the client is connected to the 8080. So it will send the data to this server wherever it connected. Now the server is listening to 8080, so it will send the data. So in server, what we are doing, again the server is using the socket. Socket is internally will be using its events. So events will be having all the listeners. So the socket is listening for the data. So whenever data receives over there, get the data and show the data whatever is received. So on data, once I get the data from the client, it will come over here and we will get the data. The data will be available in this info and I can show the information. Then what I'm doing from the server side, I'm sending some more information to the client. Socket.write data received. So again in the client, if you see, again the client is looking for this data. It is the listener. Okay. So now it is looking for this data event. Whenever server sends some data, so it will come over here. I can print that particular information on the client. Okay, that is fine. Next, what we have? So then I have some information. Whatever data it read from the client, you can print, and whatever data you send it to the client, that also you can print. In the same time, if any error happens while sending or receiving the data, we have to handle it. Otherwise, it may crash the server. So the socket.on, whenever error happens, it will come over here. You can handle the error on this. So now our server is configured. But now let me run this client. So whenever I run the client, it will connect to the server and it will send the data. Then we should be able to see all the logs. So let me go over here, node client.js. Whenever I send this in the server, you can see the message saying, first, once I connected to the server, whenever this one happened, the connect to the server, here it will print this message on the server side saying client connected to the server. Let's go to the terminal. You can see it over here, client connected to the server. Next, it will show how many connections are available on your server. So if you can, a single server can connect to multiple clients. So you can show how many connections are available. Next, I will be sending the data from the client. It will come over here. It will print the data equal to whatever data. So it is giving data equal to, I'm sending the data that is called hello world, whatever I'm reading. So that will be available, hello world. In the same time, next I am sending some data, socket.write data received. So here it will see, it will come over here and it will print a message saying data received. So let's see what happens in the client. We will go to the another tab. In another tab you can see message data received. Whatever I am sending from there, so that data you can see it on your client side. In the same time, so I send the data. After that, what I wanted to do, I want to know how many what is the size of the data I send it to the client, or what is the size of the data I read it from the client, all the information. So to read all the information from the socket, we should be able to get these information. Here, just for example, if you want to throw any other error, so you can create your own custom error, emit it, so it will throw error, so that error you should be able to capture right here. But till now we don't have any other error, so it works fine. So we are reading some data, that is the text.txt through your client, and we are sending the data to the server. This is what we used to call it as a TCP communication in Node.js. Do you guys have any other question regarding this TCP communication? If yes, please post your questions on the question window. So from Praveen, we have a question. So callback is nothing but like how we have a success and a failure in the Ajax. Exactly. So the success and failure will be having its own callback. The same way we will be having the callback. It's nothing but the JavaScript functionality. It is nothing to do with Node.js. From Parmila, we have a question. Multiple requests from multiple clients are handled in the same server or multiple servers. We'll be having a single node server, but on a single node server, if you want, you can have a multiple instance of the server. Because if one instance can handle something like 1 lakh users, if you are creating multiple instances, so each and every instance can run on a single core of your machine. So what will happen is each and every instances you should be able to handle 1 million users. So you can handle like if you have a 5 instance of your node server, in a for a second you can handle like 5 million users. So we won't be having multiple server, only one server. If you want, you can run it as a multiple instance. That is another one option is available to handle multiple concurrent requests. So from Vibhashnu Sharma, we have a question. Which editor are you using? This is Sublime editor. So that is what I am using right here. So there are a lot of editors are available in the market. You can make use of it like a WebStorm or IntelliJ, and more editors are available. Whenever you want to build some kind of client-side component and the server-side component, I felt this editor is really cool. That's why I just I started using the Sublime. From Anita, we have a question. What is there in the line number 27? Yeah, Anita, let me show that to you. So it's nothing but you have created a server. Server needs to listen to particular port. Then only you can connect to that server. So we are making it okay. Uh, this server needs to listen to this port. That's what we are mentioning right here. That is what we have it in the line number 27. From Ravi Prakash, we have a question. What is the difference between on and emit methods? So on and emit is, so again, we have to discuss more about the events, then only I can explain you the full functionality of on and emit, but let me give you the overview. Uh, so on and emit is nothing but it is event properties. So on is like listening to a particular event. Consider we have the subscribe and the publisher policy, right? So mostly you will be getting the mails from kind of users. Okay, subscribe to this website, so we will be able to send a data. So whenever you subscribe to a particular data or particular link, what they will be doing, they will add or they will give some information to the link. Whoever subscribed to that link, everyone will get a notification. Okay, something is available on that link. In the same way, here on what we are doing is we are subscribing. Whenever data is coming on this particular keyword, give me the information. That's what. Here it is like a subscription. We will be listening for this event. Emit is nothing but it is like a publishing. Okay, I have the data, just take it. That is the difference between on and emit. Uh, from Divakar, we have a question: how to close the listener if we need to? So, if you want to close the listener, there is a one more method is available in the events, that is remove listener. Using the remove listener, you should be able to remove whatever listeners you have. That is possible. Just remove the listener with the particular listener name and the function. It will remove the listener. Okay, so let's go to the next one. It is I really love this socket programming. Let me go there. Okay, so already we have seen these programs. We use the net module to create a server and listen to the server. Other information we have discussed already with the code. Now let's go to the best thing, socket programming or two-way communication in Node.js. This is the one of the uh, important thing, or I really love it actually. Why it is so important in Node.js, or why it's so interesting thing? In the traditional application, we'll make the request and to get the responses. Consider I have my Facebook account, so there is kind of chat and other things are available. So in the chat, what will happen is I'm sitting here and I have my client is rendered. That is, some data is rendered on my client. That is my browser. Some other guy who's there in US, Chicago or somewhere else, they will be here having their own clients, a group chat or it can be an individual chat also. So I mean he will be having his own client, so that is their browser. So from there he will send a message, hello, how are you? So what will happen? It will reach the server. So now in a traditional application, what do we need to do? From the my client, if I send some data to the server can request, server can give a response to only my client. Whoever is sending the request, only those guys will be getting the response. That is how we can do it. But now what happens is, server is pushing the data back to my client. I'm not at all sending anything. My friend send a message that reaches the server. Server is pushing the data to my client. This is what we are calling it as a two-way communication. So from your client you can talk to the server. In the same time, from your server you can talk to your client. Okay, so how does it happen? So how can we achieve this kind of two-way communication in Node.js? So to achieve this two-way communication, we will be using one NPM module called Socket IO. Using the Socket IO, we can achieve this two-way communication. Again, the Socket IO is built on top of events and the streams. So here fully, if you see, we will be using only emit and on methods. So what are the things can I send through the socket? You can send any string, binary data, whatever it is, whatever you want, just you can send through the socket to the server in the same way from server to the client. That is possible. Okay, so let's see the basic code. Then I will show you the real-time demo of this socket programming also. You can see if you want to use the socket, first you need to get the socket IO. I got the socket IO. Then we are passing the server to the socket IO. Next, we are looking, okay, if you want to emit some data to the client. So if you want to send some data, that is like nothing but your broadcast method. So we'll be sending the data on this particular event. On news, I'm publishing something like hello world. So in the client side, what I will be doing, this is my client side, what I'm doing is socket.on news give me this particular data. So I am sending the data, or I am broadcasting the data on this event news, and here I am listening for the same event news. So I will be sending hello world, so the data will be available, I should be able to print it. Again, from my client, what I am doing, I am emitting the data on this event, my another event, my data. So if I want to send to the server side, in the server side I will be listening socket.on the same event, my other data. So whatever data I am passing from here, that data you should be able to see it on the server. In the same time, we can send it to the server, or you can send it to the client. One more thing, from the client you can send the information to only one server, so only one server is available. But from the server you can send a message to multiple clients, whoever is available, just whoever is registered for the event, you can send it to everyone. So client is nothing but your browser. So now one browser is listening for the news event. In the same way, another one guy can join, they also can listen for this news event. So the browser will publish the event, so it will go to everyone. So if I want to give a simple example, it is like radio station. Radio station, they don't worry whoever is listening or things, just they will publish a program, or they will broadcast the program, and so that program will be running on particular thing like 93.9 or some particular frequency it will be running. So it is like a publishing event on one particular event. Now, whoever wants to listen that program in their radio, they will set the frequency. They are the listeners. In the same way, the server has published the event, and whoever wants to listen that event, just they will listen for that event. They should be able to get the information. So the default maximum socket connection is 10, but if you want, you can set it into the unlimited also. That is possible. Again, that is depends on your server performance and memory and other stuff. Okay, so this is just if you want to build some kind of chat application, how can we do it? What I will be doing is, first I will be sending a message. I will connect to this one and I will send a message saying chat.emit hi. So it will emit an event on this particular text hi. So if I'm listening for the event on the server side, I should be able to get the message and I can send the message to whoever I wanted to. So here, this is code is not much clear, right? So I have only client and server, but I want to see the real work time. I mean, working module. Then, like if you can get this clear picture on it. So let me show that to you. Let's go to the demo part. Let me run this application. Let me go over there. It's it's in programs slash node slash metrocaps node app.js. Okay, fine. Okay, now you can see it. Oh man, it's throwing an error saying I'm storing some data in the DB, so I need to start my Mongo server. So it's saying that my Mongo server is not running. So let me start my mongod.exe. Let me start it. Okay, now my mongod server has started and is listening to port number 27017. Great. So let me run the program now. Node app.js. Fine. Now it started and listening to port number 3000. Let me go to the browser and listen for this event, localhost colon 3000. So the server is running on local, that's particular local IP, and it is listening to this port number 3000. On top of it, I built an AngularJS application. The client side, whatever I have, this is totally Angular, and the server is built on Node, and I'm storing all the information in the MongoDB. So already I created a user. If you want to create multiple users, just go over here in the registration page. You should be able to enter the information and register. You should be able to register it, but already I have it. At the same time, if you have forget your password, just go over here to this thing. It will trigger a mail to your account so you can get back your password. Everything we built on the node. Next, so let me log in. Give me the password and enter login. Okay, now we just logged into our application. Now what I want to do is, I have the chat application here. You can see no one is available online because just only I logged into the application. So let me open other browser. Mozilla, fine. Yeah, it's good. Here also let me launch the application, localhost colon 9000. Here I'm going to log in with some other username, Prem. So okay, logged in. Now you can see it will show only Dinesh is online. It is showing in the green mark. So I'm going to send some message to the Dinesh. Hello Dinesh, how are you? Okay, so I'm not going to send now. So I have typed the message. Let me show you the code. In the same time, I can explain everything. Let me go over there, and I have my chat right here. Okay. Here, what will happen is, from my client, so the client is totally built on Angular, right? So let me expand this code. I have the pages is having the user, it will be having user address, fine. So right here, what I'm doing is, whenever you logged in or whenever you send a message, it will call this particular function, send message. It is nothing but your AngularJS function. Click on the send message, or whenever you click 13 is nothing but your enter key. So whenever you click on that, so we'll be able to come over here and you need to send a message. So how am I sending the messages? From the socket, I got the socket in the client side also. From the socket, I'm emitting a data saying send message, and whatever data entered in the application, that data will be sent. So I send the message on this event, send message. So in the client side, you can see, let me go to the client. In the client side, I'm listening. Over there I emitted. So here I'm listening for the send message. So I should be able to get the information. And once I get the information, I'm storing it in my database because I want to have this chat history. So I'm storing it in the database. Okay, now I store. Then I want to send this message to the particular user. If I want to send to everyone, what I will be doing, just io.emit whatever data. So it will be sent to everyone, whoever is available online, it will be sent. But instead I want to send to only particular user. So sockets dot connected of whoever the user I want to send. So I'll be getting that particular user ID and I'll emit the message saying receive message. So again in my client, if you see, I will be having the receive message. So I'm emitting from there, and here I'm listening for this event called receive message. I'll get the event and push it to a data, and I will be able to show it to the user. So let's go over here. I'm going to send. So here send, it will trigger the send message. In the other side browser, if you see, you will be getting a message saying hello Dinesh, how are you? So from here again I can send a message. Yeah, I'm doing good. So all the information will be sent right here. So you can build a real-time chat application. However, this Facebook, Hangout, these guys are having. In the same way, you can build a chat application using the Socket.io, using this two-way communication. Okay, this is good. Then, if you want to create a group chat, or what can we do? So now, if you are not using in your server side, if you are not using this particular sockets or connected client, what you will be doing is, we will be sending to everyone. Instead of sending to everyone, on this client, create one join group. On the group, you send a message. So whoever subscribed to that group, they should be able to get the message and they can view it. Or if you want to leave from the group, so from the group just remove the listener and you can do that also. This is how we will be creating a group chat in chat application. So do you guys have any other question regarding the socket IO? If yes, please post your questions on the question window. So I'm waiting for the question. If you have any questions, you can post your questions on the question window. Okay, great. So let me go to the next slide then. So in Edureka, actually we are doing this Node.js, mastering in Node.js course. So here if you see, we are you can get more knowledge on this network application. If you want to share the data from one server to another server, how can we do? So we'll be able to build a very scalable network application using Node.js. And if you want to build, okay, I'm not interested in network application. Okay, I want to build a whole web application using the mean stack. So here we are giving a full training on mean stack, network application, and socket IO, everything. So in this particular course, it is like 5 weeks course, and in the 5 weeks course we'll be teaching you like network communications and web applications. If you want to build this two-way communication using socket IO, and in this course itself we'll build one full chat application. So however we are chatting with the Skype or Facebook, in the same way we will be able to build the chat application, and we'll build a full secured mean stack application in the same course. So here we'll use the AngularJS as a client and server as a Ember, I mean Express as a server-side framework, and we'll store all the data in the MongoDB. So what else do we have? The latest thing, whatever we have in the market, like if you want to use any other task runners like Grunt or Gulp, that also we will be teaching you right here. Next, okay, this is fine, the task runners. But if we want to do any other template engines, like instead of writing all the HTMLs, if I want to build it as a template like a JAD or handlebar template, that also will be doing it. And only the development is, it's not everything. So we have to do the testing, unit testing, then only it will be fulfilled. So here we'll be giving training on the testing on your application. So in this course, if you see the Edureka course, whatever we told like 8 weeks course, here we will cover the network communications, web applications, two-way communications, and unit testing, then templating, then your task runners and other stuff. These are all things we will cover it on this particular Node.js course. Next one is in this each and every course, like weekly Saturday and Sunday we'll be having this having these classes. On this online classes, each and every class will be having its own assessment also. So once the class is over, then you can just try this assessment and you should be able to check, okay, what we learned on the class. Otherwise, if you have still doubts, so you can send out a mail to our support team, we'll be able to get back to you. And end of this particular course, we will be giving you the problem statement to build a full end-to-end mean stack application, and you can build the end-to-end mean stack application within a week. So you will be in that much ready. So the total online course hours is 27 hours, and normally we have like assignment for 20 hours. This is the assessment questions and other things, and we'll give like a 20 hours for to build this full mean stack application. And totally we'll be having like a lifetime support on this Edureka. So all this PPTs, whatever we have it in the Edureka, you can access it. In the same time, we'll be having the real-time examples also in the Edureka LMS. You should be able to get access for everything. It is lifetime free. Okay. So do you guys have any other questions? If you have any other question, please post your questions on the question window. From Jagadish, we have a question. Will you upload this recording of this webinar to YouTube? So normally, Jagdish, this webinar will be available in our Edureka. So mostly in 24 hours, the webinar will be available. Just visit this Edureka link, so you should be able to get that webinar. Next from Nikhil, we have a question. What is the cost of the course? Nikhil, just please visit our Edureka site. So this is the link www.edureka.co and mastering in Node.js. So you can get all the information about this course and what is the price and when it starts, everything. Normally we are starting the next course on October 24th. So from Rakesh, we have a question. So he wants to know how to handle the HTML also. So mostly in the course, we will be teaching everything. How can you handle the request response from your HTML? If you are using just normal HTML or templates, everything we will be covering it in the course. From Nikhil, we have a question. Do I require any previous knowledge on any language? So if you don't need any other knowledge to learn this Node.js, it is really simple because we are going to use only JavaScript. So we'll teach you from this JavaScript. You don't need any other previous knowledge on any languages. So to learn Angular and Node.js, we need only JavaScript knowledge. That also will be teaching you on this particular session. Okay, so we came to the end of this today's webinar. I know I didn't answer for most of your guys' questions, so you can shoot your questions to our support team. So we'll be able to get back to your questions. And if you have any other questions, queries, or feedback, please send out a mail to our support team. And once this webinar is over, within a 24 hours, this recorded video will be available in this Edureka site, and you should be able to get this video also. And if you expect this code or anything else, just you can send out a mail to the support team. Thank you very much, guys. Once the session was over, you'll be able to get a feedback form. Please answer for your feedback form. That would be helpful for us to improve the session. Once again, thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye bye.